You ever feel like you're doing everything right for the LSAT, you're watching videos, drilling questions, reading guides, and you're still not seeing your score move? You sit down for another test, hoping this will be the one, then the score pops up and it's basically the same as last time or worse. That sinking feeling, it's not just you. But here's what most students never hear. The problem probably isn't your effort, it's not your intelligence, it's not that you just don't test well, it's that you haven't built a system that compounds. Effort is necessary, but it's not sufficient. You could spend 5 hours a day on LSAT prep, but if that effort is scattered, if it's unfocused, if it's reactive, if you're constantly bouncing between different strategies, you're just treading water. Think of it like this. If you wanted to get strong in the gym, would you lift random weights every day with no plan? Would you try a new program every single week? Would you skip tracking your progress and just hope you feel stronger eventually? No. You would pick a proven strength routine. You'd log your lifts. You'd stick to it for weeks, maybe months, and that's what creates results. The LSAT is the same. Random effort doesn't compound, but structured, focused effort does. But most people never make that shift. Plateaus on the LSAT don't happen because you aren't smart enough. They happen because you never stay on one approach long enough to let it pay off. You read one book, try a few sections, then you freak out when it doesn't click immediately. Then you abandon it altogether, you search Reddit, find a new trick, then restart the same cycle. Back at square one, again and again and again. That is the non-compounding cycle. It feels like work, it feels like progress, but it's just noise. It's movement without getting any real momentum. If you want to break through, your first job isn't to find a new method, it's to stop abandoning the one you're already on. You've got to stick it out. There are two things that drive real long-term score increases. The first is deliberate practice, and the second is structured feedback loops. Let's talk about deliberate practice first. This isn't just doing a lot of questions. That's what most people do, and it's why most people stay average. Deliberate practice means you know exactly which skills you're targeting, like flaw recognition, main point identification, or conditional logic. You isolate those skills in drills where you push just beyond your comfort zone where it's hard but not impossible. Then you reflect immediately afterwards and write down your key takeaways. Then you wrap that into a feedback loop where you log every mistake, not just what the right answer was, but why you fell for that trap. Then you revisit your mistake log weekly to look for patterns, and you create mini drills specifically to address those weak points. And finally, you check in with a coach or a tutor, or maybe your study buddy, who helps you course correct. That's how elite performers train in every domain, whether it's sports, music, chess, and yes, LSAT prep. Now, a huge trap I see students fall into is thinking the perfect study plan is the answer. They'll spend hours researching which book to use, or debating whether to start with logical reasoning or reading comp, or asking themselves, what is the best schedule for someone who works part-time and has 6 months? But here's the truth. Most study plans will work if you actually stick to them. The search for the perfect plan is often fear in disguise. It's easier to switch plans than it is to face the discomfort of not making progress yet. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need a good enough plan that you execute flawlessly for several weeks at a time. It is not about finding the best tactic. It's about mastering one tactic long enough to actually see results. Now let's zoom out for a minute. The LSAT is not a test of raw intelligence, but it is a test of pattern recognition under pressure. And pattern recognition only comes through repeated exposure and deep reflection. It rewards students who can tolerate frustration without shutting down completely, if you're willing to suck at it temporarily because you know it'll pay off later. So if your brain hurts after a deep review session, that is not a problem. It's a sign that the process is actually working. Now, if you miss, say, 8 out of 25 questions in logical reasoning, that is not a sign to panic. That's a sign that you've got to slow down and analyze your mistakes. Not just what the right answers were, but how the test makers lured you into choosing the wrong ones. You win the game of the LSAT by being okay with feeling dumb. because that discomfort is where the growth happens. Now let's get tactical here. Most students feel like they're studying by watching videos, reading explanations, or scrolling through Reddit, but that is passive. Passive studying might make you feel productive, but it doesn't actually build your LSAT muscles. Active studying is where you read the argument and you predict the flaw before looking at the answers, or maybe you finish a section, then you write out the reasoning behind every wrong answer you picked, or maybe you're categorizing every mistake you make by type, or maybe you're creating your own mini drills to retest weak areas rather than repeating the full section again and again, hoping for a better result. Now, of course, the active approach takes more work and more time, but that's exactly why it works. Now, here's one more way to think about it. Your LSAT success doesn't come from collecting tools, it comes from sharpening one tool repeatedly. You don't need 6 books, 4 courses, 3 tutors, and 20 different tactics. You just need one clear method, and you've got to sharpen that method until it slices through every question type on instinct. That's what happens when you build reps. Not 10 questions, not 50 questions, but hundreds of them, reviewed, logged, reflected on, and re-drilled. That's what separates 170 scorers from everyone else. They don't know more, they've just trained deeper. Now, if you're feeling stuck right now, it's not a sign that you're doomed. It's a sign that you're at the edge of your growth. And that is where most people quit. They look for a new plan, they switch trails, and they start over. But you, this is your opportunity to stay the course, to push through the confusion, to keep sharpening the same knife every day, even when you're not sure it's working yet. Because the truth is, success on the LSAT doesn't come to those who are always confident. It comes to those who keep going, even when they're not. So if you can build that mindset, if you can work with discomfort, stick to one path, and focus on depth over variety, you will break through. And that's not just theory. That's what I've seen for thousands of students who went from the 140s to the 160s and from the 160s into the 170s. They weren't outliers. They were just consistent, and you can do the same. No shortcuts, just putting in the work, just climbing that mountain, one foot in front of the other, and that's how you beat the LSAT.